You might have seen me use this pop-up spray paint in my recent videos. Now, it works great, especially when you want to paint something small with a rattle can. Not so great when you want to paint larger stuff or maybe multiple stuff using a spray gun with a lot more airflow. With my garage being a semi-wood shop, the thing that bugs me the most is the dust control. So in today's video, we're going to build a collapsible paint booth that's bigger than this one, and the best of all, it's going to have integrated lights. There's loads of paint booth ideas on the internet, with some of the more nicer ones made out of some 3/4 inch PVC. The only problem that I've seen with that builds is that the PVC tends to sag over larger stretches. But I still really like the concept, because the PVC is easy to work with and it will give the paint booth the ability to easily collapse. So I'm still going to use PVC, but instead of using 3/4 inch, I'm going to use 1 inch PVC with some PVC connectors, and hopefully the larger diameter will reduce the sagging a bit. With the material of the frame sorted, I quickly designed a paint booth on SolidWorks just to make sure I don't make any mistakes. Now the paint booth is going to be 2.2 meters long, 1.8 meters wide and 2 meters tall. The entire thing will be wrapped in plastic sheeting, and to keep the dust out and to give the booth some positive pressure, there's going to be 2 filtered intake fans on the top and 1 exhaust fan at the bottom, but more on that later. But first, let's get the frame done. We're going to need 10 PVC pieces. You also need 8 corner connectors, 12 T-pieces, and 6 4-way connectors. And I'll also link all of the components you will need to build your own spray booth in the description below. And I'll also add some plans if you don't want to figure out the dimensions yourself. Now to cut the PVC, I'm going to use my miter saw, but you can also use a PVC cutter, a hacksaw, or even a pipe cutter. With all of the planning done, the only thing left to do is to crank the music, cut the PVC, and then assemble the frame. The frame is done, and I must say it's quite sturdy. I really think the 1 inch PVC made a big difference in the stiffness. Now if you want to make your own paint booth and you want to calculate the dimensions, then you have to add 1 inch for each connector. For example, if you have 2 connectors and 1 20-inch tube, then you'll have 22 inches in total length afterwards. Now you might be asking yourself, didn't I mention something about integrated lights? Well, I did. Now right before I assembled the frame, I attached these LED strips to the PVC tubes. The LEDs I used are 24 volt, IP65 rated, produces 55K light and has an adhesive backing. Now I attached the LEDs in such a way that the LEDs are on the inside, the ends are sealed off, and the connections are on the outside of the paint booth. Now you might be wondering, why all of this effort to seal off the electrical connections? Well, I'll mostly be using the spray booth to paint with solvent-based paints, and with that always comes the risk of fire. Now to reduce the risk of fire, all of the electrical connections has to be sealed off or on the outside of the spray booth. And that's also why I use IP65 rated LEDs. Now if you're not planning on painting with solvent-based paints, then you don't have to seal off the ends or use any IP-rated LEDs, and you can keep the connections wherever you want. Now how I attached the LEDs to the PVC was to first drill and file holes about 50 millimeters away from the connecting ends. I then cut the LEDs to size, soldered 4-inch 20-gauge wire to each end of the LED strip. I then heat shrink the connections and then started to attach the strip to the PVC. I routed both wire leads through the holes I drilled and made sure that the connections is within the PVC. I then sealed the holes with hot glue and pressed the glue flat with a small piece of clear tape, and then covered the area with heat shrink. I then soldered these screw-type aviation connectors to the other ends of the wire leads that will sit on the outside of the spray booth. And the final and definitely not necessary step was to seal the entire LED strip with some clear tape. And if you didn't know, this is also how you make a lightsaber. To cover up the frame, I'm going to use this plastic sheeting that's 200 microns thick, and to attach it to the frame, I'm going to use this self-adhesive Velcro strip. Now the frame will be covered by 4 sheets of plastic, one for the bottom, one for the back and front, and the last one a little bit larger, continuous one covering the 2 sides and the top. Now luckily, just before I started to assemble the frame, I already cut all of the sheets to the correct length except for the larger one that's covering the sides and the top. That one I left oversized, and I'll trim it to the correct length once it's draped over the frame. The bottom, back and front sheets will have Velcro strips all around the edges on the front and the back. The one side will attach to the frame and the other side will attach to the connecting sheets. The top sheet will also have Velcro strips all around the edges except only on the one side, and that will be used to connect to all the other sheets. All of the sheeting is now done. Now the next step is to make an entrance. Now for the entrance, I'm going to use these self-adhesive door zippers. And how to install them is quite easy. You just stick them wherever you want the entrance, make an incision cut right in the middle of the zipper, and then you're done. And the awesome thing about these are when you want to carry stuff in and out of the spray booth, you can just unzip it, roll up the door, and place it on top of the spray booth. Now, like I mentioned earlier, all of the electrical connections has to be on the outside of the tent. Now, how I managed that was to place a piece of hook and loop tape over the connections, make a small cut right in the middle of it, push the connections through the cut, and then place the opposite side of the hook and loop tape over it. Now if you only want to overspray tents, then you're basically done. But I want to do better than that. I want to add some fans. I want an extraction fan that will vent all of the fumes and overspray out of the tent, and I want intake fans that will supply the tent with clean, new air. And to control the dust even more, I want more air coming into the tent than what is being extracted, also known as positive pressure. That will push any unwanted dust out of the tent. I already had this explosion-proof fan that I'm going to use as my extraction fan. A normal box fan will also work just fine, but if you're planning on painting with a lot of solvent-based paints like I am, then I'll highly advise that you use an explosion-proof fan just to reduce the risk of fire. Now to protect this fan from any paint buildup, I'm going to use this filter that I made myself, where the filter media can easily be replaced. Now this fan is quite powerful, so to achieve positive pressure within the tent, I'm going to need 2 intake fans. Now I already had these 2 fans that I'm going to use as my intake fans, but box fans will be perfect for this. To filter the air coming in, I again made my own filters where the filter media can easily be replaced, just to keep the cost down. To attach the extraction fan to the booth, I just cut a circle slightly smaller than the intake of the fan and then used some hook and loop tape to seal it off. I then used the 2 PVC tubes next to the fan to bolt the filter to. Now my explosion-proof fan also came with its own ducting, so I'm going to use it to vent all of the fumes and overspray out of the garage. Now these 2 intake fans will sit on top of the tent on the opposite side of the extraction fan. Now I designed the frame in such a way that there is a small cage on each corner where the intake fans will sit on. The two fans are quite heavy, so to strengthen the two cages, I did assemble them with some PVC glue. Now to properly seal around the intake fans, I'm going to use some weather strips and these two mounting plates that I laser cut to mount the fans to the frame. I first cut across right in the middle of the cage and then use some hook and loop tape to attach the plastic to the frame. I then use the mounting plates and some bolts to mount the fans. If you only have one intake fan, you can still achieve positive pressure by limiting the air flowing out, by using a piece of paper or something flat to cover the extraction fan. And just like that, you've got a semi-professional collapsible spray booth that keeps the dust out, and the best of all, you've got integrated lights. Now let's see how much it actually cost me to build it. Now I did buy everything in South Africa, but because the majority of my viewers are from America, and for the sake of convenience, I'm going to convert everything to dollars. Now the PVC was $15, the PVC connectors $40, the plastic sheeting $30, the whopping 40 meters of hook and loop double-sided tape cost me about $60, the zipper doors $20, the 10 meters of LED strips $55, a power supply for the LEDs $22, and all of the connectors and wires $20. Now, I already had all of the fans and filters, so the total amount it cost me to build it was $262. But if you need fans and filters, a new explosion-proof fan with two box fans and filters will cost you around $310. But if you just want to overspray tent without any lights or fans, it will cost you around $165 to build it. Now comparing that to a similar sized inflatable spray booth, I would say that's not too bad. Now if you want to build the spray booth for yourself, I'll have a list of all of the materials you need with their Amazon links in the description below. And if you don't want to mess around with any dimensions, I'll also have detailed plans available. Just look for the link in the description. Now I really hope you enjoyed this video and it maybe inspired you to build your own spray booth. Until next time, happy spray painting. Please like and subscribe because I need new lights.